So Insta360 is only a 4-year-old company, and in that 4 years, we've gone from being a company that was based out of a college dorm of our CEO to being the #1 leader in 360-degree cameras worldwide. And Insta is sold in more than 150 countries, and we're continuing to grow that number every day. So we are truly a global brand, and we pride ourselves on innovation. We have offices on 2 continents. Well, it's actually 3 now. We just opened an office in Germany, but our headquarters is located in Shenzhen, China, and our North American headquarters is located in Los Angeles. And the importance of these 2 cities is that, obviously Shenzhen is where all the technology, or most of the technology in the world, gets made, and Los Angeles is known as the content hub. It's where content gets its backbone. Insta360 has over 300 employees now, and a majority of them are R&D. So continuing to create amazing software and hardware that complement each other. This is a quick peek at some of our biggest distributors. We're here at B&H. B&H has sold Insta360 cameras almost since the beginning of our company, and we're also available in some of these other large retailers. So what I'm going to do now is kind of talk about our products as far as missions. So we have these objectives in our company, and the first one is to make 360-degree cameras more accessible. And I'm sure a lot of you have dabbled in 360 cameras in the past and have seen how hard it is to use, and that's been a big deterrent to why 360 cameras haven't been more widely adopted. But Insta360, we're slowly changing the perception of 360 cameras and how easy it is to use them. So it all started with our Insta360 Nano, Nano S, and Air. And these cameras bridge the gap between 360 and consumer products. So in the past, 360 used to be this big twisted machine that you would have to assemble with a bunch of different GoPro cameras, or you would build it yourself out of DSLRs. But what we did was we made it one camera. One tool that combined several camera sensors in one small portable pocket-sized camera. And the ones you see here attached to your phone, and they shoot 360 photos and videos. They're able to live stream. They're able to 360 video chat, and you're able to get some pretty incredible footage. But these cameras kind of open the door to a much larger space. We showed how easily a 360 camera can integrate with popular social media platforms, being able to take this camera, attach it to your phone, click a couple of buttons, and live stream immediately to YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And this was a huge door opener, because you couldn't do this simply with any other camera before that. So once we and we'll get more into mission 1, but I'd like to tackle our second mission now to show you how we're making VR production more simple. And this is actually, I would say, the most important one, because I'm going to show you how we've essentially taken this huge long workflow and this big timeline, and we've condensed it and made everything easier, from production to editing and post-production all the way through to delivery. So this is a picture that I usually like to show, and it says a lot about how VR and the whole industry has evolved. This type of camera is not an off-the-shelf camera. It's not a consumer camera. It requires a lot of meticulous building. You have to build the holder that you put these cameras onto. You had to manually turn on each of the cameras and make sure the cards were all recording. And simply put, it used to be a nightmare to produce VR content, and people just didn't want to do it because it would take too long and it would drain too many resources and it wasn't efficient. But now it's not, because as you can see, these cameras next to me, these are all-in-one systems. This takes everything that 8 or 9 or however many GoPros used to use does, and it does it even better because of the software involved. So I like to show this kind of timeline. All these steps here, this capture, transfer, stitch, edit, tweak, check, double check, import to VR headset. This used to be a normal VR timeline when you're shooting with cameras like the predecessors of these cameras. But what folks didn't realize is this is still a really challenging workflow. You have to do, just to be able to see what your footage looks like, you have to do a lot. Just to see what it looks like in a VR headset, you had to go through all of these steps. So the following slides are gonna show you how we're essentially taking this timeline and we're condensing it and making the process more like a traditional flat 2D camera. So where we started with professional cameras was with the Insta360 Pro. And the Insta360 Pro, it's not here right now, but it looked very much like our Pro 2 camera with a lot less features. But for the first time, you had an all-in-one 360 camera at a professional level that would record 8K, that had decent stabilization, that you could do cool things like put it on Google, use it for Google Street View. And this camera opened a lot of eyes and brought a lot of people back into the 360 camera industry, but it still came with its challenges. It wasn't quite the ideal solution. And so about a year later, we came out with our Pro 2 camera. And what we did with this camera is we listened to a lot of user feedback. We listened to our partners, and we learned a lot from the previous generation Pro. And we made some pretty phenomenal feature upgrades that essentially made the Pro 2 now the workhorse of the whole professional VR industry. And we do have a very large share of the Pro space, mostly due to the Pro 2. So some of the upgrades, I'll just quickly list some of them off, is with the Pro 2, you're now able to record 8K in 2D and 3D. You have the ability of taking HDR stills and video. It has a GPS module built in, so for all of the Google Street View users out there, you don't have to get a separate GPS module to go and sync your photos and videos with the GPS data. It's just all in one now. We've built in something called Farsight, which I'll show you. It's a wireless live monitoring device that will allow you to connect and live view a fully stitched 360 video or photo up to about 1/3 of a mile away. Much higher bit rate, so now you instead of the Pro 1 recorder onto one SD card or one SSD drive, whereas the Pro 2 with its higher bit rate, you now record onto 6 cards and an SD card, 6 micros and 1 SD. And then, of course, one of the most important features of the Pro 2 is our patented flow state stabilization, which is essentially cinematic stabilization, and we say no gimbal needed. There's a 9-axis gyro built directly into the camera, and then we do a post stabilization with flow state after. The Pro 2 has won numerous awards, including most recently the CES Innovation Award for digital imaging, and it's continuing to do really well in the space right now. As I mentioned, it's Google Street View ready. So that's you're now able to essentially go out by yourself and map the world and contribute to Google Street View, whereas before the only way to do that was with the giant Google cameras or the Google cars. So we talked about flow state stabilization. There's 2 ways that Insta stabilizes with our cameras on the Pro side. It's a 9-axis gyro that's built directly into the camera, so at the production level, and then once again after the content has been downloaded into our software or into Adobe Premiere or a number of other softwares that we integrate with. So again, just kind of circling back, there's 3 issues with professional VR content creation. And there's problems at every step of the way, which has limited the industry from essentially producing VR content. The first is at the capture level. So we talked about it being impossible to, or without flow state stabilization, you had to do a lot to stabilize your content in post, or you had to get a lot of really expensive stabilization gear, which would make you spend more money at the production level. So there's a bunch of other challenges with the production level. The second is post-production, and the third is delivery. So we're going to continue talking about some issues with that we've solved with capture. So live monitoring, this sounds like a super trivial piece of equipment because we've had it for so long with traditional cameras, but with 360 and VR, a lot of times you're shooting in the dark. You don't know what you're shooting and how it looks until after you go back to your computer, you pull out all the cards, you go through that whole long timeline that I showed of stitching and exporting and bringing it into your headset and reformatting. And by the time you've done that, you've spent so much time in post. What happens if the content isn't good? It's going to be hard to go reshoot it. You've lost your location, you've lost your talent. There's a lot of things that have happened. You need quick, immediate results, and you need to be able to see what you're recording. And so before Farsight, the cameras themselves, they have Wi-Fi. So you can connect to the Wi-Fi and you can live view from 30 to 50 feet away. But then that creates a whole separate issue, is that you're gonna be in your own shot a lot of the time. So how do you get around that? So if you're in your own shot, you're either spending a lot of money painting yourself out in post, or you're simply hiding and shooting in the dark. So with Farsight, you can now go behind objects. You can get far enough out of the way where you're not going to be in your shot. So this is 300 meters. It runs on a 5.8 gigahertz frequency, so it's not going to interfere with a lot of the other equipment that you have, and it'll live preview at 1080p. The unit itself will last for 3 hours. It's very simple. There's a receiver and a transmitter. You connect the transmitter to the camera via a LAN cable, and then you connect your device, whatever you're using, whether it's an iPhone or an Android or an iPad or an Android tablet. You connect it to your receiver, and it's a couple minutes and you're connected right away. You can even connect it to your desktop. So then once you get past all of these production challenges, which we're slowly solving, you get into post-production. So with post-production, if you're like me, I'm stitching and editing everything on a MacBook Pro. It's not the most powerful computer, but it is one of the more popular computers for editing. So if you're gonna stitch a couple of minutes of 8K footage, it could take you several hours to do that. And nobody has time unless you're just going to leave it overnight and let it run. So what we did about a year ago is we announced a partnership with Adobe, with Premiere, where you can now take your unstitched files, you can bring them into Premiere, and you can export only the stuff that you care about. So being able to trim away all of the excess footage that you don't care about is vital. And this is kind of the new workflow. So the traditional workflow being transferring, stitching, editing, and exporting, and the new workflow being no stitch editing. So all you're doing is you're transferring, you're editing, and you're exporting. And we've calculated this to be in certain scenarios up to about a 75% reduction in the amount of post-production time, because the majority of time is spent stitching the content out. And if you don't have an NVIDIA 1080 Ti or better GPU, then it's going to take you much longer to stitch. So what the camera does is, on this Pro camera, on the bottom here, you'll see there's slots for 6 micro SD cards. And in the back, there's a full-size SD card. So what the full-size SD card does is it simultaneously records a proxy file in addition to the full resolution file that's being recorded on each micro SD card. And so you import the proxies and the full res files simultaneously into Premiere, and you work off of the proxies. And then the last step is, well, once you're done capturing and once you're done editing and stitching and doing you're going through your whole post-production process, how do you deliver the same quality content that you shot at 8K when most people are viewing in a non-8K device? So currently mobile devices are the most popular way of viewing 360 content. And if you're on a device like mine, like on an iPhone, you're able to view maximum 4K. So we thought, well, that's not fair, because the HMDs and all of the head-mounted devices and all of your viewing devices, they're not caught up with the resolution that these cameras can record in. So what we did is we created something called Crystal View. And Crystal View allows you to play a higher resolution file back in a non-8K device. So what it's doing is, I'll show you how it works. It's focusing as many pixels as possible into your direct field of view, and it's lowering the resolution of everything else that you're not looking at. So when you're actually viewing with Insta360's Crystal View app, the experience is much better that you're getting from from the content that's being shared. And it's super easy to use. So all you do is you shoot your footage in 8K. Once you're done exporting your video, you convert it to Crystal View format, which is all available inside of Insta360's free apps. It's a one-click conversion. And then you load that file into the Insta360 player that's available in Oculus Go, HTC Vive, Android, iOS, and a number of other platforms, and you play it. And that's the Pro 2. And then about a couple of months ago, we came out with an even higher resolution system. And that higher resolution camera system is standing right next to me, and it's called Titan. And Titan is very unique because it's built for cinematic VR, but it's just as easy to use as one of our consumer cameras or the Pro 2. So if you've seen, and I'll show you the interface on what it looks like, but with the Titan, everything is upgraded in this camera. It's higher resolution. You have more bit depth. You can shoot higher quality content, better low light because of the bigger sensors and the micro four thirds size lenses. So this is a spec sheet about Titan. It has, instead of the 6 cameras that's on the Pro 2, you can see it's a bit bigger than the Pro 2 camera. The Pro 2 weighs 3.5 pounds. The Titan weighs about 11 pounds. And with Titan, you're getting 8 micro four thirds sensors. You're getting the ability to record up to 11K monoscopic or 10K stereoscopic. It also works with Farsight. It also has a 9-axis gyro that's built into it. HDR stills, much better low light, and it's the same no-stitch editing and Crystal View playback for 11K. And then on top of that, it's the first 360 camera that can shoot at 10-bit color, which for anybody that's in the cinema world, this has been a massive upgrade over the 8-bit that's available on the Pro 2. So we'll jump ahead here, and I'll show you some footage. This clip is from the Titan. You can see on the right there's a conventional VR camera, and on the left is the Titan. Let me just go back and play this again. So you're seeing all of this noise here in the traditional VR camera that's zoomed in, and with Titan you can zoom all the way in and get some really incredible quality footage without the noise and without the graininess. These are just a couple of examples here. We talked about the 8 micro four thirds sensors. So this is really to maximize on Titan's image quality. The dynamic range is unparalleled in any other 360 camera, all-in-one 360 camera off the shelf. And the low light and the color depth are also unmatched, and you can see that in some of the examples that I'm going to show you right now. So this is on the left again is Titan, on the right is a conventional VR camera. I'm just going to stop this, and here you can see a lot of noise and some purple coming in here in the nighttime sky. This is not what the nighttime sky is supposed to look like. This is what the nighttime sky is supposed to look like. And then you can go through and also see that on the stoplights, you're getting some haloing on the lights all around. Whereas this red, you can see the perimeter of where the light cuts off. So this is, we're really excited about what Titan can do. And here's an example of 10-bit versus 8-bit color. It comes through in the sky. You don't see these lines right here. On the left is the 10-bit. Here's where the difference comes through. And here's an example of the flow state stabilization. So you can turn stabilization on and off. There's no dolly here, there's no gimbal, there's no, this is literally just somebody walking with the camera. And this is what the result is. This is, again, two types of stabilization. One at the capture level, and the second, it's a checkbox that you can click flow state on and off. And there's no gimbals, there's nothing fancy happening here. This I wanted to show is what our app interface looks like. The box on the left side here, this is the desktop control. So if you're operating it from a computer or either a laptop or desktop, whatever you're using, this is what it's going to look like. You get all of your SD cards on the left. It shows you how much space you have left. It allows you to toggle between the settings, basically going from photos to videos to live streaming. I have it now set on live stream, and you can customize all of your settings here. On the right in the yellow box is the mobile app, and you can see it's very similar from one platform to another. You're not there's not a big leap in using it from your desktop or your phone or your iPad. It's really just whatever you're comfortable with using, and you have all the same controls on both platforms. And then Insta360, we're very much into supporting our community. So we've built a phenomenal user guide that's available for free online. You can access it through Insta360.com. And if you click on support, you'll see it for each product. And you get a full tutorial of preparation for how to shoot with the camera, all the way through to some Q&A talking about specialized features like live streaming and multicam and Google Street View and using a 360 camera to create 3D models with companies like Matterport. It's all here, it's all available. If there's something that hasn't been addressed, you can comment, and our support team will get back to you within 24 hours. For faster response than 24 hours, we often see the need for immediate response. There's somebody on a job, and something will happen, or there's a question. You can go to our Insta360 community. We have one for just the general Insta360 community. We have one for our ONE X camera, which we'll get into in a second. And we have one for our Pro Series cameras. You can log in. Our community is full of phenomenal users that will respond in a couple of minutes and offer really helpful tips and suggestions and guides. So please feel free to join these communities as well. This is available on Facebook. Here are some examples of how folks out in the world are using our professional 360 cameras. This is from the Elbphilharmonie in Hamburg, Germany. They're using it for video and spatial audio production. You can see two pros stacked on each other. There's all sorts of really creative use cases beyond just turning it on and shooting. This is to capture 6 degrees of freedom, which we can talk about in a second. There's folks in big companies like Amazon using it for warehouse inventorying, and you can create really complex and difficult shots in spaces that are challenging to shoot in. This is an example of the Manchester City Soccer Club using an Insta360 camera to create their immersive experience. So what we had a Titan out on the field, we had a ONE X out on the field. They're shooting for immersive, and it's super easy. You don't require a 5-man crew to operate it, just one person connected to the app. And here's some other really great use cases as well. Obviously, for VR filmmaking, this is a core function. Marketing and advertising companies are now starting to use 360 cameras more for immersive experiences, for launch events, experiential. On the top right, you're seeing VFX and gaming production, video game production. So you can now, instead of recreating an entire virtual world in a gaming in a virtual engine like Unreal, you can take a 360 camera, you can shoot very basic footage, and then you can create games within the 360 environment. So anybody at home with an off-the-shelf 360 camera, it doesn't have to be the Titan, it could be the ONE X, can now create their own video game, virtual VR games with free software and off-the-shelf 360 cameras that cost a couple $100s. And virtual tours, this has been a very popular way of deciding which home you're going to buy or rent, figuring out where you're going to go on vacation, taking tours of all sorts of exotic places like nuclear reactors. It's all made possible with easy-to-use 360 cameras. And then, of course, the thing that we're really prideful at Insta360 is that we don't like to hoard our technology. We really like to open the door, and we play well with others. So Mystica VR is a very user-friendly and professional stitching platform. And we don't force people into just using Insta360 software to stitch. If you want to use Premiere, you can use Premiere. If you want to use Mystica, you can use Mystica. And we've allowed access to our stitching algorithm and our stabilization to make the user experience much better. And this is an example of what the Mystica interface looks like. The advantage here is that with Insta360 software, we're using a number of different ways to stitch, from template-based stitching to optical flow to a more refined, newer version of optical flow. But let's say you shoot a subject, and that subject happens to be in the stitch line, which is linear. How do you get rid of that? Well, you can pop it into Mystica, and you can actually bend the stitch lines around people and objects. So it's a much more advanced way of stitching your content. So this is kind of what we like to call our new workflow. It's capture, connect, play. You don't have to first take out your cards and stitch everything together like in the traditional workflow just to see what you're seeing. You can actually, there's multiple ways of doing it. So you can preview directly on your mobile device after you capture, and it'll preview a lower resolution version. Or with some of our cameras, you can actually preview in a headset. So you can connect our ONE X camera over here or our Evo camera directly into an Oculus Go headset or an HTC Vive headset and see what the camera is seeing live, so you can adjust your settings on the spot. And then, of course, this is probably one of the most exciting things that we've announced in the past few months. This is our newest technology. You can now take an 8K live stream and live stitch it. So before, the maximum resolution that most folks could do is 4K. You could take a 4K live stream out of this camera, and you can send it to Facebook or YouTube, or you can send an RTMP feed and put it on a custom platform or custom server. Now you can do this all in 8K. And it's really exciting because it's going to mean higher resolution experiences. It's going to mean that you're wherever you want to be, whether it's a concert or a sporting event or another location-based entertainment event, you're more immersed because the resolution and the quality makes you feel like you're there more. And this is the way the 8K live streaming solution works. With 4K, all of the stitching is done in the camera, whether you're using the Titan or you're using the Pro 2. It's taking all 6 or 8 camera feeds, it's stitching them together in camera, and then it's sending it to wherever you want to send it. With the 8K software, what you need is an external stitching server that's powered by NVIDIA GPUs. And you connect your stitching server to your streaming server, which could just be another laptop, and then you send that to the cloud or to any 8K TV or 8K headset or platform that accepts 8K. And in the next couple of years, 8K is going to be a revolutionary technology, whether it's powered by or sent over a 5G network or it's sent locally. And you can go on Insta360's enterprise website and to learn more information about the 8K live software. And then this is another kind of shout out to some of the other third-party softwares that we work with on the live streaming side. These are just a few of what you can integrate with, from Assimilate software all the way through to Wowza and Voices. You can have it be as simple as possible by just streaming from the camera and a router and your phone, or you can have a multicam solution, or you can pair a 360 camera with traditional cameras. So it's as simple or as customized as you want it to be. So our third mission, after we kind of got into the world of simplifying everything, we decided that 360 cameras, or what we learned from our users, are powerful tools not just for immersive or VR storytelling, but they're really powerful tools as just traditional flat 2D cameras. And I'll show you why. And our goal with our smaller cameras, like the ONE X, which has one lens on the front, one lens on the back, is to make the future of the action camera. So I'm sure many of you that are watching right now have used or own a GoPro camera or a traditional action camera. I'm going to show you how a 360 camera, using a 360 camera for what an action camera is for, is better in every way. So with our ONE series, it evolved from being a fun add-on or a fun toy to being an actual professional tool. So our first camera in the space was called the ONE. And what the ONE did is it showed for the first time how you can use a powerful phone attachment or a standalone camera as your go-to action camera. And it had a lot of great features in it. It recorded in 4K. It had our flow state stabilization that we talked about, which made it super buttery smooth. It was able to attach onto your iPhone or your Android device. You can use it as a standalone camera with one click of a button, and it revolutionized the whole space. A year later, we came out with its successor, which is the ONE X, which is the camera that you're seeing here. And the ONE X upgraded every single feature that it had inside the camera. The ONE X can shoot at 5.7K resolution. The ONE X has upgraded flow state stabilization. So we put a 6-axis gyroscope in this small little camera. You have a small LCD screen that you can control the camera features and settings directly from the screen without needing to power on your phone. It had Wi-Fi connectivity, so you can, instead of just being Bluetooth where you can control the phone from your camera, you can now live preview whatever you're shooting. You can shoot HDR photos and HDR videos. It had removable batteries. It now has a GPS remote controller. So there's all these upgrades that we've made in this camera, and it's to enhance the user experience, to make everybody have a more smooth and better overall capture experience. These are some more of the features. Now with the One and the One X, one really cool thing that you can do is you can actually you can customize your shooting mode. So you can go from full auto settings to manual settings and control your ISO, control your shutter, your white balance, settings that aren't available in most traditional action cameras. And on top of that, we've essentially, once you're using this camera, the selfie stick that it's attached to, it will disappear from every shot automatically. So you might look a little bit silly walking around with the selfie stick, but once I hold it in my hand and the camera's on, it looks like you have a floating camera following you at all times. Whether it looks like a drone or somebody else that's filming you, you have your own personal camera crew wherever you're going. Now this isn't even the coolest part about the One X, and I'll show you a little bit about why One X is now replacing traditional action cameras. We talked about flow state and not having to do much to stabilize. So for those of you who do action sports and extreme sports, it's really hard to mount a gimbal onto your bike or onto your snowboard or wherever you're using this camera. You need it to be as compact as possible. And that's why we have flow state stabilization. Being able to record at different frame rates from 30 frames, 50 frames, all the way to 100 frames per second is vital depending on what you're doing and what the activity is. We talked about the invisible selfie stick, so this cool little graphic will illustrate that, how the snowboarder is holding the selfie stick, but it's actually not there. And then HDR photos and videos, packing that kind of feature into a small camera is revolutionary. And then on top of that, Insta360 looks at inspiring creativity. We want our users to get shots that were never achievable with a normal camera, or if they were achievable, it would take a ton of gear, it would cost a lot, and it would require a lot of manpower to do it. And that's why we came out with this accessory here called the Drifter. So this is the One X is the world's first throwable camera. So you put it into this football looking like accessory, you toss it, you record at 100 frames per second, and you get these impossible shots. And this is kind of how you use the Drifter. So for the skateboarder, you would throw it right under him or her, and then you do everything by reframing in post. So I want to get through some of these features, and then I'll show you how to actually use the camera and how to reframe. So this feature is called Time Shift, and what Time Shift does is all in the app. So all of our editing is we like to recommend that you use your mobile device to do the editing. It's quick, it's easy. You can shoot, edit, and share content in a couple of minutes, all from your phone to any social media platform, either as 360 or as just flat 2D reframed content. And this is one of the features. It allows you to speed ramp up and down with a couple clicks of a button, all in the app. It's available for iOS and Android. There's no difference. There's no adapters anymore. It's all Wi-Fi controlled. You can connect a cable to it for downloading, or you can download straight from the Wi-Fi. And then we talked about these impossible shots. What we did was we came out with a feature, our own version of bullet time, where you take this camera, you attach it to our bullet time handle, and you spin it around you. And as you spin it around you, you get these insane 360 bullet time shots at 100 frames. And then we talked about just wireless transferring, so you can download all the footage straight from the camera to your phone and do all of your editing on your phone. And for those of you who prefer to edit on a desktop application, it's no problem. We have free desktop applications, or you can edit in Premiere as well. The same no-stitch editing applies to Premiere. And then with the removable batteries, you get about 60 minutes of continuous recording per battery, and they charge in about 40 or 45 minutes or so. And then we talked about the GPS remote. You can record GPS data at a couple clicks of a button while you connect to your camera. And this allows you to do things like track your stats for any activities that you're doing. It also allows you to as you're on the go, to upload your GPS tracked photos and videos straight to Google Street View, all from this tiny little camera. So now anybody with a One X can contribute to Google Street View. So I'm going to shift focus now and show you a video. This video is it's a collection of footage from the best of 2018, and this is One X footage and Pro 2 footage and just everything that our users have generated. And this all came from our users that have sent us their footage. And as you can see, this is all flat footage. It's not in 360, it's not in VR, it's all been edited down, and we've taken the best angles and moments. So let's have a quick look. So it's pretty incredible, some of the footage that we got last year, and we're so excited to showcase our best of 2019 footage at the end of the year. But as you saw, all of this footage has been reframed, and the angles that you're going to get from a 360 camera are impossible with traditional other cameras. And the great part about it is you're not spending all this time focusing on how you're going to get the shot and the timing of everything. You're focusing on your activity, the thing that you love the most, whether it's skydiving or mountain biking or snowboarding or just going out and touring a city and getting some casual footage. You're enjoying your moment, and then you're focusing on the editing later. And that's what Insta360 is all about. We want to make capture and editing as easy as possible, where you're still able to enjoy your daily lives and your activities that you're doing. These are just some more stats on the One X. We have a venture case which allows it's a good splash-proof case for any water-based activities. We have a dive case that allows you to take the camera up to down to 30 meters. So any activity that you want to do, it's available with our One X accessories, and these are some more of our accessories that you can use for different adventures or sports or action sports that you want to do. This slide talks a little bit about us in the news. If you Google Insta360 and if you Google the One X, you'll see a lot of really phenomenal reviews about what our camera can do. if you can go to Insta360.com or you can go to our social channels, we have some really great tutorial videos that are available for you. And we really invite you to check those videos out, see how easy it is to use our software. All of our software is available for free, so you can actually download it on the App Store or the Android stores, and you can load the footage. We have footage samples that's available on our website and on social channels, and you can actually play around with it yourself. You can download our studio software and test it out. And I believe that for everybody that tuned in today, B&H is going to be offering a special promo. So just contact the store and let them know that you tuned in to the Insta360 live stream and you're inquiring about the special promo on any of these awesome products, and they'll work with you guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. For those of you that are here, we're gonna be doing some hands-on time. And for those of you who are tuning in live, feel free to come into the B&H shop or go online to learn more about the products at Insta360.com. Thank you so much.